Welcome back to the Voice Stereo Power Radio Show. I'm your host, Anthony Swaggavelli Malcolm, and we're back. Definitely have a great show for you guys tonight. Sorry about all little technical difficulties, but running the show up here by myself, so you know how that go. Everybody that is calling in, I'm glad you guys had called in to get everything straight. I know it's first time listeners, so just to get you guys set up is an honor. So I'm glad that you guys are calling in to make sure that you are getting ready to tune in for Dr. Umar as we have this interview a little bit later. Definitely appreciate each and everybody. So with no further ado, our special guest for the evening, our elite psychologist, Prince of Pan-Africanism. I am so honored to have Mr. Dr. Umar in the building. Good afternoon, King. How you been?
Good afternoon. All is well. All is well.
That's good.
Coming back to South Florida Saturday.
I know. It was an honor to have you last time you were here. That was 2014, around 2014, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, cool. And we were here. Loved your presence. We was talking about how everything was going down here. And I'm so glad that you came back. And I think I'm a big fan of timing. And I think the timing for you to come back now is even more better than when you did the first time you stepped down here, because there's a lot of awakening going on now. And now we need the direction that you so eloquently put us and place us in, and I think that a lot of people appreciate it. So I know we're going to have a huge turnout this weekend when you are doing your lecture, the Parent Boot Camp, and I'm so excited and looking forward to that.
Thank you, my brother. I'm looking forward to it as well. Just to let the people know, we have less than 100 tickets left out of the 400 that can fit to the African American Research Library in Fort Lauderdale. So brothers and sisters are planning to come. I'm asking them to please go online either to our website, drumarjohnson.com, or either directly to the Eventbrite page, which is Prince of Pan-Africanism.eventbrite.com, and we start Africa with a K. But I want them to go ahead and get their tickets now, because it looks like there's a strong possibility that the tickets may all be gone by the time the door opens. Now, if there are any remaining tickets, they will be sold at the door, but it doesn't look like there will be much, if any at all, left when the doors open up at 11 o'clock on Saturday.
Yes, and that's so correct, because people have been asking me left and right, and a lot of them already got their tickets. That once I put up that you were going to be on the program, a lot of them already told me that they got their tickets, and a lot more asked me for the information. I gave them the information on the flyer, and I passed it along. So, I definitely want to make sure that my peoples come in, that we get there and grasp this information, because now is not the time to play around. And I know when we get into this interview, people have a definite understanding of how crazy and how chaotic this psychological warfare on blacks has increased over the decades, and I know you're gonna pretty much break it down for us. But one thing I have to point out that I've witnessed a brutal attack on you done by the cast of TV One, and what happened to be the same panel members of our black race. I've seen the same panel engage in laughter and joy when a suspected white supremacist by the name of Hillary Clinton was on air with them, and they have done numerous amount of work in a school system, helping us protect our children from a psycho-academic Holocaust warfare that is targeted towards black people that was plagued for us in our generation's life. You have stated that several times in your great book that the Psycho-Academic Holocaust, which is a great, phenomenal book. Everybody out there to go get it. And you break it down so eloquently in that book about what is going on. And it's crazy that they praise this person from another race who actually calls our children. Now, you're here to protect our children. They actually called our children super predator and publicly announced that their mentor is Margaret Sanger, a woman who has dedicated her life to practicing white supremacy and black genocide through Planned Parenthood within the black community. With that being said, from a psychological standpoint, why do black people naturally tend to attack other productive black people trying to make changes for our community versus attacking whites and people outside of that race for causing harm and destruction towards our black people and their community? Break that down for us so we can have a better understanding of why that psychological point always seems to plague our community.
Yes, indeed. The simple answer is that we have been trained over a period of 400 years to work against our own best interests. During slavery, we know that those slaves who aided and supported the slave system were rewarded in a myriad of different ways. There was meritorious manumission laws. Nearly all of the 13 colonies had meritorious manumission laws, which basically said that if you participated in the capture of a fellow slave, if you exposed a slave rebellion before it took place, you could be rewarded with your own freedom or at least an increased status on the plantation. And that wasn't the only way they rewarded black folks who were enslaved at the time. They rewarded them with extra leisure time. They rewarded them by moving them up to being a driver versus just a regular slave. They rewarded them by giving them better clothes, better food, better living quarters. So we have to be clear that we come from a culture. We come from a culture under white supremacy where selling out your people was beneficial to your own personal best interests. And when you look at the Negro psyche and what we have been made into, largely the Negro is an African who has been taught how to self-destruct and work against his own best interests. And that's why I fight so hard on the educational system. That's why I'm up here in Detroit, Michigan right now, looking at different schools for sale, because, you know, I'm trying to open up that Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And definitely for my brothers and sisters in Florida and South Florida in particular, if there's any schools that are for sale in that area, please do text me and email me and WhatsApp me that information, because I am not geographically locked as to where the school should be. It could be in Detroit as easily as it could be in Miami, as easily as it could be in Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, Chicago, Detroit, LA. It doesn't matter. I'm just looking for the best deal for the monies that we have, because only through education can we eliminate the self-hatred that we saw Roland Martin participate in. And now this week we see Ray Lewis and Shaquille O'Neal and Lil Wayne and so many other prominent African-American males participate in as it relates to our brother Colin Kaepernick, who decided to take a knee to protest the police violence, genocide, and injustice against African people.
I really appreciate that answer, because I think it's much needed. And the solutions, what do you think is something that you want to tell people that's out there, that what are some of the solutions in trying to combat that when people see that? And you have some people that are kind of weak-minded and they'll follow the trend. What do you want to say to the people that are like that, or on the brinks of following that trend, or on the brinks of attacking somebody else? What do you say about that? Like, do you have any information to give us on that?
Even with that reality that you bring up now, my brother, I think it still probably harkens back to education, but a particular type of education, and that's the political education. In other words, I think a lot of black people are giving up on our ability to overcome white supremacy because they don't have a historically accurate analysis of our situation. And what I mean by that particularly is that although we've been under white supremacy in this country going on 400 years, there have been other groups and peoples, other nations and ethnicities around the world who were under domination, although no domination is the same as that inflicted upon upon African people, but they were under a unique domination of their own and were able to come out from under it. A lot of people forget that the British were once enslaved to the Germans. They forget that the Chinese was once a forgotten about, disrespected, and downtrodden people. Look at them now. East India was once a colony of Europe and was treated as a low-grade nation. So when you have a historical analysis, you can look at this and say, yes, it's been 400 years. But 400 years is nothing compared to the hundreds of years that other nations have been under domination, even African nations. When we look at traditional African society, we've had kingdoms that ruled for thousands of years and still fell. No one is unbeatable. Nothing is invincible. But if you don't have the knowledge of those different types of situations that came before you, you might lose hope. And that's why I think our people has to be educated. But more importantly than that is the socialization of the next generation. See, most people think the most important job of a school is to teach. It's not. The most important job of a school is not to teach. The most important job of a school is to socialize. It's to teach children how to fit within their own community and work with other people who look like them to benefit the collective condition of that society. That's the purpose of education. So when Jewish children go to school, they learn how to benefit the Jewish reality. When Chinese children go to school, and I just came back from China and Japan speaking there a few months ago, they learn how to benefit their own reality. If you notice, African Americans are the only people and the only children who go to school, and as a result of having been to school, you are no more of a benefit to your community than when you left for college. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who wrote Miseducation of the Negro, I think he said it best when he said, the college-educated Negro is seldom of any use to his race, because the education that he gets is an education that takes him away from his people. And to get back to your question quickly, we got to realize that as long as white people can give out consequences and rewards for coolish behavior will remain. The only thing that can eliminate that is for the African American community, the American African community, to create our own system of accountability. The reason we have Ray Lewis's, the reason we have Roland Martin's, the reason we have the Steve Harveys of the world, not to impugn or disgrace my brothers, but some of their behavior has clearly been in contradiction to what we as the people stand for. And the reason they can do it is because they know their community has no consequences that it's willing to give. It's the same reason why we don't see more black people stand up like a Colin Kaepernick and speak out for their community, because there's no rewards in place. I'm a psychologist, a school psychologist. On a basic level, psychology, behavioral psychology, is about two laws. Two. And those laws are simply, number one, all behavior is a function of where it takes place. So that means whether it takes place in your house, my house, whether it takes place in the prison, the school, the job, the community, the courthouse, all behavior is a function of where it happens. We change our behavior based on where we are. And second, all behavior is a function of the consequences that follow. So the question we have to ask ourselves, what consequences do we have in place to punish those who are disloyal to the community, and what rewards do we have in place to honor those who are loyal?
Exactly. Well said, well said. I agree 110% with you, and hopefully we can get to that point. If we do what we need to do, we'll get there. Like you said, with education, a lot of times you have blacks out here that don't understand the racial history of the national anthem. Since Colin Kaepernick took a knee, a lot of blacks finally realized that there was racial history in the anthem. They didn't know that before because, like you say, a lack of education. Also, when you ask somebody about the light bulb, the first thing they come and tell you about is Thomas Edison and not Howard Latimer. So it's
Latimer.
Yeah. So it's a lot of education that is lost in between that, like you said, it's just we just need to get onto that road where we can start educating ourselves in order to prepare ourselves against systematical racism and also empowering our community to get back to where we originally were built and how we were built to survive out here. With that being said, it's kind of hard, right? Because you talked about the school, and I know a lot of people probably give you flack for the school and why they don't see progress in the school or hear anything about the school. I've heard from several people that defended you. I've defended you myself. People have been saying you're very transparent about it. I know how you are as a person. I've been around you. I know who you are. I know your character. I just wanted to make this point, and I wanted to ask this question. It's kind of hard, right, pleasing black people, because I see this even with myself. It's not even just you. It's myself. It's also a lot of community heads and a lot of community leaders all over, worldwide. But it's kind of hard pleasing black people in this day and age when you're out doing great things to help build your community. You try to show people exactly what you're doing by being transparent, plus how you are going about doing it, especially through Facebook Live. Some people do it through Facebook Live like I do. And people think that you're boasting and bragging, and then they tell you, just do it in silent. You don't have to show everything. But then when you do it in silent, like yourself, Dr. Umar, who's been doing the process underneath the limelight, underneath the table, and then you have people mad at you because you're not revealing it. How is black? Is that really down, not revealing it, but even though you're down for the community? We get a lot of scrutiny, whether you be transparent or whether you are cryptic with it. So, are there any solutions or anything you want to let people know about how do we even go about pleasing people on that aspects? How do you satisfy the masses? Is it possible? Is it not possible? I mean, you do one thing, you get scrutinized. You do another thing, you get scrutinized. So how do we go about building our community? Do we do it publicly or do we do it silently? Because we get scrutinized either way.
Exactly. Well put, too. Your words are very well put. I believe that being transparent and also being discerning and somewhat covert in your operation is a strategical tactic. And I think you have to use them as you determine necessary to achieve the desired goal. Because in this work, so even when I look at my school situation, not only do I have to be concerned about the detractors who would want to tear down the project, but I also have to be concerned about the U.S. government, who I'm sure is constantly watching me and currently trying to take away my school psychologist certification. I'm currently going through that right now. As a result of the Negro detractors constantly banging on the door of white supremacy, begging them to stop me. So it's kind of ironic because as a Garveyite, for those of us who know that story, we know that Marcus Garvey was largely undone by fellow African-American leaders who were so jealous of his ability to organize black people better coming from Jamaica than they could having been born in America. And it was those black leaders who wrote a letter to the United States government begging them to deport Marcus Garvey. And once the government saw that his own people was willing to serve him up just to get him out the way so they could assume their so-called leadership mantles, the government moved in on Garvey. They could never have done that had they not been given the consent of the other black leaders. I'm going through the same thing right now as it relates to my certification. The state of Pennsylvania is going through a process where they're trying to strip me of my ability to evaluate, to conduct psychological evaluations on school-aged children, something I've been doing for almost 20 years, and they were not even thinking about me. Their motivation came from all of the negativity, the letters, the emails that they've been getting, not from white folks, but from black people who desire to see Dr. Umar Johnson's work put to rest. So I think we have to be transparent when it is beneficial, and I think we have to be clandestine when it is beneficial. Now, as it relates to FDMG, if someone were to ask me, what is the most interesting aspect of the criticism you received, it would simply be this. Who expects a school to be built, operated, and maintained? Utilities, insurance, transportation, meals, teacher salary, okay, materials, computers. Who expects a school to be built and maintained and ran efficiently on $700,000? And to clarify that point, here in Detroit, where I am now, I flew in this morning, looked at 5 schools today. But I was here last week looking at schools. There's one school in particular that I dare not name because I know the hater camp will try to disrupt my ability to secure that school. The school is $1.1 million. It's perfect. It is perfect. It's not residential. It's a regular day school because with $700,000, there's not enough money to go residential. But it's perfect. The school is everything that I would like. The yard is there. The gym is there. It has trees, some land, but they want $1.1 million. We only have $700,000. And when I knew I didn't have enough money for the school after I asked them what it would be after the walkthrough, I laughed inside, but I hurt inside as well, my brother. And I hurt because I said, here I am at a school that I want and need, but I can't buy it because I only have $700,000. They want 1.1, so I'm about $500,000 beneath the asking price. But yet I have members of my own community talking about I should have been at a school when I don't have enough money to even buy one that's on the low end of the market. So a lot of it is ignorance, and what I find so, alarming about the criticism I get is coming from people who don't know the first thing about being a psychologist, who don't know the first thing about being a principal. Not only am I a certified principal, I've been both a principal and an assistant principal. I've been a school psychologist for nearly 20 years. I know my class. But to have peons and coons sit around and try to evaluate someone whose profession they know nothing about and have never participated in is absolutely alarming. But let me say this. A couple days ago, I decided to start posting the positive emails and tweets and messages and letters that I get from brothers and sisters because, believe it or not, for every detractor that I have 1 million supporters. If I didn't, I wouldn't be the most requested black scholar on the planet as we speak. So I started putting that out there because right now the narrative that the haters want to put out, the goons, is they want to put out a narrative that says this man doesn't have any support. So I need to be very clear and make sure people understand that although the haters are very loud, the supporters may be quiet, but those supporters clearly outnumber the detractors. $700,000 isn't a lot of money, but it is an awful lot of money to be raised off the pennies and $5 bills and $10 bills and $20 bills of everyday working African-American men and women. Mind you, most of my contributors are repeat contributors. Very few of my donors have been one-time donors. I have doctors who donate every month, lawyers who donate every month. I have elders on fixed income who send me faithfully a $5 check every single month, faithfully a $10 money order every single month. And I just put that out there to balance the narrative because for those who don't know, they might assume that I'm being crushed by a wheel of negative information and propaganda, where the truth of the matter is there's probably no scholar in this country who has never been endorsed by white scholarship that enjoys the level of support that Dr. Umar Johnson gets. So it is tough dealing with the hate. It is tough not having enough money, but at the same time, I'm so thankful that I'm still in a position to be able to get a pretty good startup school. We have one in Delaware we're looking at. I looked at about 5 today in Detroit. There's a couple of them I do like, but I'm a little hesitant because one of them don't have a yard. The other one doesn't have a gym. And I want the school to have both a yard and a gym. But the one school, again, the $1.1 million school that's here in Detroit, that's the school that I want. But the Lord might have something better in store. The ancestors might have something better in store. So I'm trying to be patient during my impatience because I don't want to make a mistake, because this money that I'm spending is not mine. It belongs to you, the people.
That's what's up, man. And I really want everybody to pay attention to exactly what you're saying and the transparency that you have been presenting since day one. And you know what is so crazy, Brother Umar? I had somebody ask me about that on my Facebook when I presented the picture up of you, basically on the flyer, right? And they was like, oh yeah, you know, it doesn't, like just everything you said, oh, it's 700,000, I could do this, I could, you know, I could do it with a credit score and this, like, just like you said, you know, if it's so easy, why isn't everybody just popping up schools like that?
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
I mean, there's plenty of people that got more money than that, and it's a little bit more difficult than that, you know, but they don't realize that. But I asked them, and I didn't even challenge them on that, because I don't even know the realms in that field for me to even ask that. But what I do know the realms, and what I do know is, why aren't you guys challenging, the way you challenge Dr. Umar, why aren't you challenging the building fund in your local churches? The local church has been asking for the same building fund, and the only thing's been building is the luxurious items around your pastor. But you guys don't chastise. I think it's like religious figures is off hands. We've seen that with Joel Osteen. I'm not even gonna go there, but also, why are blacks? We've been dealing with hurricanes now, Harvey and here in Irma, and why are blacks getting denied left and right for FEMA money? You're talking about a $5 billion budget, but blacks are getting denied left and right. You guys are not complaining and chastising the government about that. And then the last but not least, the very obvious, is we have blacks that donate to Red Cross all the time. They donated when they had the devastation of the earthquake in Haiti. They donated $6 billion. And out of that $6 billion, they only built 6 houses? Why y'all not chastising Red Cross about that? You still got celebrities out here still sending money to Red Cross. But yet, you sit there and throw your own brother, who's doing more for the community than any organizations, than a lot of these pastors, but you don't give them the same scrutiny that you give Dr. Umar. And that's the problem I have. If you're going to chastise somebody across the board, do it across the board. But don't be singly-handed with one person and then you let somebody else off the hook out of biasness or just a love for that personal organization. That doesn't make sense. So that's one of the things that I really had a problem with, and I just wanted to address that, especially everybody out there that's listening. That's something that's been on my mind heavily, and I just always like to point out hypocrisy. I've always been a person to point out hypocrisy, and that's what I love to do. Now, I want to get in, because we dealt with hurricanes down here, and it opened up a lot of black people's eyes, but a lot of black people really didn't understand the depths and the seriousness of natural disasters. They think that automatically, because natural disasters occur, that systematical racism across the board just stops, which it doesn't. And even during the tough times we faced during national disasters, like we had in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, the 3 deadly hurricanes that tore up these cities, they hit. And we still, as black people, have to face racism during these times as well. We had 5 officers in New Orleans during Katrina that were caught shooting black people and got convicted of the crime, even though most of the cops escaped jail time through probation. You also have reports of people being killed secretly during Hurricane Harvey. They had a homeless man who said that he refused shelter because he saw blacks being killed. And then here in Miami, where you had Hurricane Irma hit, we had 8 elderly people who died from the lack of neglect. Do Do you feel like environmental racism is designed for these type of natural disasters? And how do we protect ourselves from this type of terroristic attacks during future natural disasters?
I absolutely believe that environmental racism is an aspect of white supremacy that the black community has not fully and adequately rallied around. We deal with the political racism. We deal with the economic racism, racism through the criminal justice system, the racism in the school systems. We still have to win those wars, but at least we are keyed in on those aspects of racism. But when it comes to the environmental injustice and the environmental racism, to include federal and local response to natural and not so natural disaster, we are not dealing with it as effectively. And I think part of that comes from the fact that we as a people, one of our biggest weaknesses, we do not believe in preparation. We are a reactionary-based community. If you notice, almost everything we do it after something has already happened to us. I don't care what it is. Black people do not prepare. We only react. And part of the reason we don't prepare is because in order to prepare, you have to care. See, if you're going to build a savings account for your child, you say, when I die, I want my child to have a trust fund so they'll be able to take care of themselves long after I'm gone. You do that because you care. Because there's nothing going on right now. There's nothing going on in the next 10, 20, 30 years that are going to necessitate your child needing to access that money. But because you love that child, you're going to build the trust fund right now. So it requires love. The problem with us is we do not have the collective love. What I also refer to as the cultural glue. The cultural glue that other communities have that holds them together. So European Jews, they'll prepare for the disaster before it comes. Arabs will prepare for the disaster before it comes. Mexicans will prepare for the disaster before it comes. Anglo-Saxons, Chinese, they will prepare for the disaster before it comes. But with black people, we're only concerned about ourselves and our family because we haven't embraced the wisdom that states that in order to save yourself, you have to save the group. We don't understand that wisdom. Everyone seems to understand it, that you cannot save yourself unless you save the group because you are part of it. So when you talk about these natural disasters, one of the reasons we always find ourselves behind the eight ball is because you got to care about other black people and say, listen, guys, we just got hit by Irma. We just got hit by Harvey. Next time one of these hurricanes come around, and we know that they will, we will be ready for it. Let's start our own disaster preparedness intervention program. Let's have our own protocol. Where are we going to go? Let's designate the 10 locations in South Florida, the high ground that black people can go to in the event of a hurricane. Let's identify the shelters, the disaster-proof shelters that will be able to withstand the might of the hurricane so that we can protect life. Let's start storing up food right now, okay, in some of these public storage houses. So we're going to rent out a couple storage houses, and we're going to start storing up the food and the non-perishable items and the first aid kits and everything we need. We're going to be ready for the next one. You know why we're not thinking like that? You might be. A few others might be, but collectively we're not, because black people don't care enough about each other as they care about themselves. And until our love for the group equals the love we have for ourselves, we will always be last. See, what bothers me when I look at TV and I see all these athletes talking about how they wouldn't have took a knee because they love the flag so much. I love my country so much. I heard Shaquille O'Neal say, my father was an army man, and so I cannot support Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. I beg your pardon, Shaq? You're the blackest thing on television, and you got the audacity to defend a flag and an anthem that symbolizes the rape, the oppression, the dehumanization and genocide of black people, and you will defend that, but but you will never defend black people against the flag, but you'll defend the flag against black people? And that's what hurts me so much, because I know that the love we need to make a change is not there, but we can build it in the next generation. There's an African proverb that says, every time a baby is born, that is a message from God to the rest of us, that God has not given up on us yet. When God is through with black people, supreme consciousness will stop all of our women from being able to give birth to children. As long as our sisters can give birth to children, that is a message from God that we have an opportunity and the ability to change this situation.
So, I don't think a lot of people are in depth with environmental racism. So I think I just want to play a little something for them and see if, we could get a better understanding, because a lot of times people really don't realize that environmental racism is one of the most technical forms out there, and we don't pay attention to that. So I definitely want to just play this real quick and see if we can get this going. Hold up 1 second. Just gonna allow me. Been having technical difficulties throughout today. Alright, it's not gonna play, but we'll definitely chime in on another time with that. When it comes down to, like you say, the prepping and preparing, we had some great people that have been doing some preparation a little before the hurricane and also after the hurricane. I know several individuals. You had down in Miami Gardens, we had a female by the name of Valencia Gunner. She did a great job. Her and James Mungan, they did a phenomenal job of feeding 18,000 people after the hurricane hit. Like that Monday, they were out there before any officials were out there. All the officials just kept saying was, we have to assess the area. We have to assess the area. And they took the initiative because they said, you know what? Every time something goes down in a natural disaster, blacks are always the last to get the resources, to get help. So it's upon us to make sure we go out there and do what we did. And they went out there and they found hot dogs. They were on a search for hot dogs, and they were feeding people hot dogs. And then you had some black people that was like, why are you feeding the people hot dogs? Listen, these people need food. No, I don't care if you're a vegetarian. At that moment, you're hungry. You're going to eat that for that day. You might go back to your original regimen of what you normally eat, but for that day, you are ready to eat whatever, as long as you need to survive to the next day or wherever to bring you to till you get back to the regular scheduled program. And for them to do that was phenomenal, to get ICE to do all of that. Had they not done that, we would have had a lot more tragedies than what we have now. So when you say preparing, and I wanted to point that out, as well as George, you got Emmanuel, George, and Broward, and myself, we was out here doing the same thing out this side. And it's next year we have a whole new scheme going on. So I know in your lectures, I know especially down here in Florida, you might want to add that in and let us know what is on, any little information that you have. You can let our peoples know what they need to do in preparation, because I know they were giving out, my peoples that run out in Miami, they were giving out flashlights and everything in need before time. And a lot of times people will sit there and say, well, why are you giving people stuff? They can buy that. But there is a lot of people don't understand the economical point where financially we're deprived in our cities, and black people, and overall, like you have a large amount of percentage of black people that are basically living check to check. Like they have no extra means to buy outside of that. And for her and James to do that for them was huge. And we have to start doing that on a bigger and better level, because now it gets to the point where it's like FUBU. It's like for us. It's all about us. It's everything we do is for us and it's about us, and that's the message that we have to get across to all our peoples worldwide. We have to form that unity, and with those things being out there, I know you have you're doing a lecture called Black Parent Boot Camp. Let us all know what the lecture is in details and what's the basic general detail that you will be talking about in lectures. I know you're not going to give too much, but just to give the family a little heads up of what you are about to talk to this coming weekend.
Definitely. Educational law. Just as we talked about how environmental racism is a major form of racism that Black people have not sufficiently studied or organized ourselves against. I would say under law, we deal with law all the time: criminal law, employment law, civil rights law, family law, all the time. But we don't deal with educational law enough. And Saturday's program is really going to be a school law seminar, an educational law seminar for Black parents, broken down as plainly as it could possibly be so they can understand and use the information. We're going to talk about basic laws, federal laws, that every parent needs to know about. For example, the Supreme Court decided back in the 1940s that children have a right not to pledge the flag. They do not have to pledge allegiance. Your right to refuse to pledge is protected under First Amendment as freedom of expression. But yet, we just had a case where a Black kid was pulled out of his chair by the teacher because he did not want to stand. The teacher, who was an idiot and didn't know the law, obviously was not taught that not only does he not have to pledge the flag, he doesn't even have to stand. This is federal law. Your child doesn't even have to leave their seat when the Pledge of Allegiance is given, nor do they have to give a justification as to why. That's the law. Parents need to know that if you don't want your child in special education, all you have to do is request an IEP meeting and request the paperwork to sign your child out of special ed right there on the spot. There's no arguing. There's no going back and forth. There's no tug of war. There's no lawsuit. If you don't want your child in special ed, you take them out. If you don't want your child evaluated for a learning disability, you simply say no. If you don't want them tested for ADHD, don't take them. So I want them to understand discipline law. If your kid is in special ed, they can only be suspended 10 days. 10 days total out the entire school year before the IEP team has to approve subsequent days. If your kid is being brought up for expulsion, regular ed or regular ed, if your child is being brought up for expulsion, you have a right to the evidence against your child. You have a right to present witnesses. You have a right to question the witnesses that the school district is using to expel your child. You need to know they cannot change your child's grade for behavior. It is illegal to change a report card grade or reduce a grade for behavior. I mean, educational law is a whole area, a very large area that our parents have been totally kept in the dark about. And that's why Saturday's seminar is so very important. And I'm hoping as many parents as possible will show up and get the information, because when we talk about our people perish for lack of knowledge, as the Bible says, our people perish for lack of knowledge, that proverb doesn't hold true for any area of Black existence more than it holds true for education. Because truly, when it comes to protecting your child in the miseducation machine, knowledge is power, and the lack of it is detrimental to your child.
Definitely. I see a lot of, I had to get a teacher removed up out of the school system when I was dealing with my ex. And a lot of people don't know the procedures that you had to go through, and we had to find out through other teachers the procedures of how to get it, just to get your voice across. And so many parents don't take the initiative to analyze the situation. And sometimes there's a lot of times it'd be the students, but also as well, there's a lot of toxic teachers out here, and especially in a charter school. A lot of times people don't understand in charter schools, you can operate in a charter school with like bare minimums. I've heard some people, if I'm not, am I right, Dr. Umar?
Well, technically, charter school teachers, because charter schools are still public schools by law, they're alternative public schools. Teachers in a charter school are supposed to have the same credentials as teachers in a public school, with the exception that you can have some uncertified teachers, but all of them must have criminal clearance, they must have child abuse, they must have the FBI clearance, they must have the degree, they must have all of that. Okay, they cannot be around your child if they don't have all of those clearances, but yes, you can have a limited number of teachers at a charter school who do not have a state teacher's license.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. And I realized that, and I was kind of shocked about that information that I gained. And the child came back and told myself and the parent, my ex that I was dating, and the child came back and said, you know what, Mr. Anthony, my mom, I have a situation in the class. And we were like, okay, what's the situation? And the child ended up saying, well, the teacher, she put us on one side of the table and put another group on the other side and said, this side over here is going to be successful, and this side over here is going to end up in criminal gang activities. And I'm like, are you really, really serious? And when we brought that up to the attention of the principal, the same code that a police station, a police department uphold is the same code a lot of these public and private schools hold as well, where they protect their peoples. They really don't want to hear the information, because come to find out, they knew what this teacher was about, but they're still not going to put that teacher out there like that. So instead of trying to correct it, they were doing a lot of deflecting and, it might be the child. So we end up going above their head, because I ended up talking to a teacher that I know, and she told me, you know what, once you go to the principal and nothing is get done, go to the superintendent of that county. And she wrote a nice letter to the superintendent, and lo and behold, 3 days after that, the teacher got fired, because everything came forward. It's once you get to that level and the superintendent has to get involved, then all that stuff that teacher's been going through, and they see that, they have to remove that child. So I was just glad and fortunate that child came forward, one, and two, that we were able to get that toxic teacher out of that situation, and also have a teacher to give us that information. But a lot of times, we as parents, step-parents, we don't know that information, and we just let things happen, and it builds, and it ends up destroying multiple children in the process. So when I hear, I know you still do your program every Tuesdays, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and people don't even highlight that. You're taking time out on Tuesdays for, is it 2 or 3 hours?
Sometimes we're on, it's scheduled for 2, but sometimes, like this past Tuesday of this week, we were on for 4 hours.
Exactly. 4 hours, just say 2 to 4 hours out of your own day. You're not getting paid. You're on the phone communicating with parents that are concerned and want to protect their children, and you're taking time out of your day to make sure you give them the right information to protect their child, that nobody else is going to give them that information. But yet, people don't praise you for that, and I want to praise you for that, brother, because I remember when you first told me about that program, I've listened in, and I've also heard success stories that came back from that conversation. So it's doing a phenomenal job. The people that's listening are increasing, and I definitely want to thank you for putting and creating that together. And I hope a lot of people also get in the process of getting on that line as well and starting to tell other people as well, and just collectively get this information to protect the next generation, because it is very vital, especially during a time of a black genocide agenda that's going on, and it's raised to a higher level. So I definitely want to thank you for that, brother.
Oh, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
Now, let me see something real quick, because you know what? I'm going to save that for when we get back. Hold on tight. I'm going to take a real quick commercial break. When we get back, I know the next thing I'm going to get into is something that everybody's been talking about since you've been on the Breakfast Club, but I really want to dissect this and let people know exactly what you said and how important, because I think people took that out of context the wrong way. But I'm going to navigate when we get back and put it in a form so where people can see exactly where you're coming from. So everybody, don't go nowhere. It's the Voice 305 Radio Show, WYOPYoPartner.com. We'll be right back.
For my behaviors, I just feel this way, and I'm led to enact my feelings indiscriminately without any control or regard whatsoever for what I do. That is ridiculous. All intelligent people who do not suffer an intellectual disability have control over their behavior. So when we say we can't help who we fall in love with, that's just an excuse that suggests that we do not want to take responsibility for the fact that we are in love with white folks and we are not as in love with our own selves. The reason I oppose interracial marriage has nothing to do with any disrespect whatsoever for the white female at all. I oppose it because as an institution, the black family is the cornerstone of all nation-building efforts and activities on our behalf. And because it is the foundation, it needs to be strong, it needs to be solid, but most of all, it needs to be unapologetic. You cannot defeat white supremacy, which is unapologetic, if you are going to be apologetic. So if Dr. Umar has a white wife, there's no way I can be unapologetic, because everything I do and everything I say, I'm going to be concerned on some level that I may be offending my white wife. I'm going to be concerned on some level that I may be offending my white mother-in-law, my white father-in-law. I can't be unapologetic being with a white person. And that's why most of us who date and marry outside race, if you notice, our political stances are not as strong as they need to be. The only exception I've seen in recent times to this has been Shannon Sharp. I think Brother Shannon has done an excellent job on the Undisputed Show dealing with racism. I think he's the most outspoken athlete, second only to a Colin Kaepernick, but he is engaged to a white woman. Which means to me that if he really believes what he says during that show, and I believe he does, sooner or later he's going to have to leave her for a black woman. Otherwise he will be another contradiction. Not contradiction, contradiction. So I'm against it because marriage is an economic institution. When you get married, that ain't all about love. That's about finances. That's about investments. That's about businesses. Marriage ain't emotion. Marriage is a financial and a political institution. If you don't believe me, go to any divorce court. Go to any divorce. Go tomorrow downtown to the local divorce court and see if anybody is in that divorce court dividing up love. See if anybody in that divorce court is dividing up commitment. See if anybody in there wants to get back all of the love and admiration that I had for you. Not at all. The word love doesn't even get mentioned in divorce court. But you know what gets mentioned? Houses, assets, investment, pensions, retirement funds, bank accounts. That's what you divide up in a divorce court. Why? Because it is a business. marries a woman who ain't African, given the fact that women outlive men, irregardless of race, on average they do, you're basically investing your entire life's earnings into a member of a race that have already stolen and taken so much from us. Why would you want to give them more? They've stolen enough. Why do you want to voluntarily give them your entire life's earnings? Your entire portfolio, your entire estate. I'm going to give that to a white woman after I die, knowing full well, she is not going to take any of that money and bring it back to the black community and help the kids that I've been working for my entire life. You cannot claim to be about the black struggle while you're sleeping with the oppressor. It is an absolute contradiction. It is not acceptable. And the reason that we're still having this debate is because it has gone on for a long time being unchecked. The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, you could not join the Garvey movement if you were married outside of your race. You couldn't even join. That was 100 years ago, so you can imagine how revolutionary that type of idea was then. Here we are, almost 100 years later, 2017, and we're still having the same argument. And it's true, most black men don't marry outside of their race. That's true. But black men do marry outside of their race more than the men of any other race does. And educated and successful black men have an extreme overrepresentation amongst interracial couples in this country. It is a manifestation of self-hate. And if anyone disagrees with that, they can read a book by a black man who is married to a white woman, a psychiatrist, one of our greatest revolutionaries, Dr. Franz Fanon, who wrote the book Black Skin, White Mask, where he says, and he was married to a white woman, and he was a psychiatrist, and he says that black men marry outside of their race because they wish they were white themselves. It's no way to get around it. We have to solve this because we have to be clear on how to raise our children. I was in a conversation, and I'll stop here. I was in a conversation not too long ago with a black mother, and it hurt me. You know what she told me? She said, Dr. Umar, I understand where you're coming from, but I cannot, in full conscience, being a good Christian woman or something to that effect, I cannot tell my son that he cannot date outside. This was a black woman. And what was so appalling about her position was not only that she meant it, I could see the internal struggle she was having with herself during our conversation. But what bothered me about it, who is impacted more by the black man marrying white than the black woman? Who is impacted more than our sisters? And to have a black woman who don't feel comfortable telling her son that he needs to honor the black woman. If he don't hear it from his mother, why would he ever believe it hearing it from anybody else?
Man, when I say you're spot on with it, you're spot on. Because this is the same unapologetic movement that I have as well, because when you look at it, and it's, you know what's so crazy about, what a lot of people didn't even peep, Dr. Umar? When you sat down in the Breakfast Club, right, and people were in uproar, what came out 2 weeks after you said that? I'm gonna see if you paying attention. What came out 2 weeks after you said exactly what you said?
I remember something coming out, but I can't remember what it was, because I do remember making a comment about it. I know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna refresh you.
Making a comment about it, but I forget exactly what it was.
I'm gonna refresh your memory. When you said what you said, and I was behind you 110%. And I told people all the time, before you even made that interview, I told people all the time, people on my Facebook, people around me know, I said, I'm not here to tell you who you can't date, but let's be clear, under systematical racism, white supremacy, it is dangerous for you to date outside of your race as a black person. And 2 weeks after you said what you said, Elliott, the football player, Dallas Cowboys, got into turmoil because the white girl he curved went and tried to call her a story with her friend and end up texting him, and the text message were all revealed in the media. And that text message was powerful and evident to what you were saying when that text message said, she said to him, I'm a white girl, you're a black athlete. They believe me before they believe you. And she made that false claim that he was out there beating on her like that. You remember that?
I remember that.
Exactly.
I remember that because the situation is still fresh. And she said, you can tell them what you want to tell them, but they're going to believe me because I'm white and you're black. And do you know what that speaks to? That speaks to a reality that a lot of our brothers and sisters don't understand when they date white. And that reality is this. All white people benefit directly and indirectly from systemic white supremacy and racism. White supremacy is the religion, racism is the system that implements those beliefs. And because they all benefit, every white person is an agent of that white power. And regardless of where you are, and regardless of the nature of the relationship that you may have with that white female or white male, it does not eliminate the power that they bring into that context. So in other words, a white woman on the job, she might be the boss, or on the job, I might be the boss. But the minute I get along with her, I might be her boss. She might be a nobody. She's the lowest person in the business. But once we get along, because she is white and an agent of white supremacy, she automatically outranks me. She automatically outranks me. And because she has more power than I do, vis-a-vis her membership in the ruling class, all she has to do, like Zeke Elliott's white girlfriend did, is simply say, I touched her, I hit her, or I tried to take something from her without her permission. She can change. The most powerless white woman on earth can transform the most powerful black man on earth's life within a blink of a second. And that is the difference between us and them. And we keep on trying to separate the white people we love from their membership in the oppressive race that rules. There is no separation. She is always a white female. And she is always accompanied by the power that accrues to her community. You just like a black man, Zeke Elliott, Colin Kaepernick, it doesn't matter how much money you got, how much power you got. It could be LeBron James tomorrow. They will reduce you to nothing overnight. And the lowest amongst them will be able to reduce you to nothing overnight, because in essence, it is not a relationship between two individuals. It is a relationship between two groups of people. This is what we're missing. When Zeke Elliott was in the room with that woman, that wasn't Zeke and the white girl. That wasn't the rich, famous athlete and the poor, unknown white woman. That was a black man who belongs to the group that is downcast and outtrodden, and that was a white woman who belongs to the group that runs the entire power structure of this country. It was not about him or her. That was black versus white the entire time. And it took for him to go through that situation in order to realize that. But the sad thing, I wouldn't be surprised to catch him with another one later on.
And that's the sad reality of it. And just to give people, don't understand, there's so many situations like that. Like Dr. Umar was saying, look at the situation with Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre was getting harassed by a white man that was way beneath this pay grade, his financial class, and wasn't even in an area where he could afford a home like that. And he's harassing Dr. Dre, a homeowner, in front of his own driveway. He calls the police on Dr. Dre, and the police believes the white man over Dr. Dre and has this man on handcuffs in TMZ. Then you come down to, when you remember there was a movie with Idris Elba called Daddy's Little Girl. And in that movie, Gabrielle Union, she played the girlfriend, and she realized that's when he opened up to her and told her about why he had the 2 strikes on him. And she realized that he had went through a similar situation that a lot of black young athletes went through. And it was that he was a star athlete that had sex with a white girl, and the father came in, burst in the door, and found out that he was, she was sleeping with him, and told her, you better tell the police that he raped you, and that's how he ended up in jail. Now, when we look into reality, because people will say, oh, that's the movies. Okay, then reality, I'll give you a couple cases. You had one prime star athlete, I forgot his name, but he was down here, I think he was in the South, somewhere in the South, but he was 16 at the time, and he got caught up in the identical same scenario. He didn't get out till he was 21, 5 years later, and I think they awarded him $1 million for suing her, but he wasn't going to get that money because she didn't have that money. And he ended up making the NFL team. I think he made 2 NFL team practice squad, but his whole career and his whole life was just damaged because he was a star athlete that would have went straight to the NFL and been on his prime, instead of being caged up in a jail psychologically for 5 years, does enormous damage, and then to come out and he would never be the same again. Then you had another incident where I think it was a guy, I think his name was Lamar Ball, where it was a young 16-year-old who was a triathlete. He was good in all sports, and he ended up getting a text from a white girl at his school, and she sent him nudes. Her parents found out she sent him nudes and went to the police, and this boy was facing 5 years of imprisonment because and they knew that she sent it. He didn't ask for her nudes, she sent it willingly, but yet he got in trouble for it and was on the brink of 5 years. I'm not sure what the case was. I didn't update myself with it on see how it was going or if the case is still in the process, but it just goes to show you that it's very, very dangerous whenever we cross that path on the systematical racism, especially dealing with a system that is not for us. It wasn't built for us. It works perfect for exactly who it was built and organized for. And then you have, I want to ask you about, because people think that when you have a child out of an interracial relationship, that child is safe. And I did a whole segment on the show about biracial children, and they go through a lot that a lot of people didn't realize. And I remember when I did the show, a lot of people was like, wow, I did not know biracial children go through so much torture and a lot of psychological pain because of that. And we've seen recently that an 8-year-old had been hung, and the mother put the graphic pictures out there, and then you had the police officers saying that they were just playing. Now, on a psychological level, something happens like that. Can you give us some details what that does for a child on a psychological level, even in an interracial dating?
Definitely. And let me give a shout out to Shanique. Okay, I was asked to give a shout out to Shanique, so shout out to Shanique, one love. Also, Sister Shardicia, who was so helpful as to reach out to you and see to it that I got on the airwaves today. So I want to thank Sister Shardicia for making this interview happen, helping to make this interview happen. Also, to Sister Raylisha, who's the host of Saturday's event, and also to Sister Michelina, who will be the hostess at the Saturday event. So to those three sisters, Shardicia, Michelina, and Raylisha, I can't thank you guys enough for helping to make these fantastic events. And thank you as well, my brother, for bringing me on at such a short notice. Anytime this interview happens, to let the community know that I'm coming. So always thankful when the media is able to give Dr. Umar Johnson a couple seconds of time to spread the information. With biracial children, and I know this so well, I know it from the perspective of a therapist. I know it from the perspective of someone who had a very close biracial friend. And I know it from the perspective of someone who has dated unequivocally that it is very selfish for a black person and a white person to come together and produce a child. It is very selfish because that child is going to be torn perpetually for the rest of their life between their identity with the race that rules and their identity with the race that suffers. And a lot of times what adds to the trauma of being biracial, because I definitely believe that there is a trauma that takes place and that is unique to biracial children, black, white. I've seen it. I've heard the stories. It is a trauma. And so for me, it is very selfish to do it. But when you're half black and half white, which is really a misnomer because you can never really be half black since the African DNA predominates, the European DNA is recessive. So a child with an African parent and a white parent is still 99% African, genetically speaking. So there's really no 50-50. But for the sake of conversation, when you're half, you always look to see which side you can fully fit in with. On the one hand, you got this white in you, but your white relatives don't accept you as white. White people in this society don't accept you as white. You hear racial jokes. Barack Obama is a good example of this. He talked about how, he said himself in his own book, I didn't choose to be black. I was told I was black. I didn't have a choice whether I wanted to be white or black. They told you are black. My grandparents told me you are black. So if he could have, he probably would have chose white. At least that's my opinion of him. Because people he doesn't have a lot of alpha in him. So I think he would have definitely chose the white side. But he couldn't because he clearly has Africoid features. So with that being said, there's a trauma that takes place when you're sitting around white folks who you're related to, talking about black people who you are. And then you go to the black folk and they don't trust you because you're so light, or they don't trust you because you're half white, or they make jokes about you that affect your self-esteem by constantly calling you white boy or half-breed, which is a very disgusting title to use for a mixed-race African. So from what I've learned from all the biracial Africans I've been around in my life, it's no benefit to being biracial at the end of the day. Now, is there benefit in terms of career? Yes. You may get into certain schools because you're biracial. You may get into certain colleges because you're biracial. You're going to get certain jobs because you're biracial. You're going to get certain promotions because you're biracial. Look at Barack Obama. He became president because he was biracial. If he was a full-blooded black man, he would have never gotten the job. But because he was biracial. But here's the question you got to ask yourself. Barack Obama served 2 terms. He did his full 8 years. He's no longer president. If we were to interview him, and if he were to be strikingly honest with you and I'm willing to bet my life that that man will tell you, although I became president of the United States, the highest office that this country can confer upon a citizen, I still feel no more accepted by white people now than I did before I ran. I'm willing to bet you. In fact, I would argue that Obama was reminded more of his Africanity during his presidency than before he ran. I'm willing to bet that those 8 years solidified in his psyche more than any other period in his life that you are a black man and there's nothing you can do about it. And the irony of that is I really believe Barack Obama sought the presidency as a way to seek validation amongst white folks who had never accepted him fully in life. That was a way for him to symbolically get accepted by the white grandparents who called other black people the N-word in his presence. That was a way for him to symbolically be accepted by the white relatives who never saw him as truly a member of their family. Becoming president for Barack Obama grew out of a psychological necessity to prove to himself and prove to other white folks that he was adequate. But the irony is, once he finished, he learned more than ever that we do not accept you. You are not one of us. And even though you can talk like us, just like us, walk like us, you will never be us.
Oh man, just appreciate each and everything that we've said so far. I know time is running out, man, and I wish I could have you out for 4 hours. You know, we really much needed this, and I really want to appreciate you coming on, and definitely Queen Shardesia for putting this together as well. And anytime you want to come back on, Dr. Umar, just let me know, man. You know your fam here. Anytime you want, man, just reach out to me and we'll make this happen. Before you go, real quick, I just want to ask you this real quick question before we get up out of here in 3 minutes. Irene Pearson, she asks, why are blacks so against the psychologists for their children and themselves when they have mental health issues?
We have very good reason to be against the field of psychology, even when we do mental health, because psychology has played a significant and major role in the creation of the stereotypes that black people are intellectually inferior to white folks. It was psychologists that created the system of segregation. Not only in America, when we study the Nazi system under Adolf Hitler, Joseph Goebbels, who created the myth of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed supreme race, he was a psychologist. When you go to South Africa and you look at the architects of the apartheid system, they were psychologists. When you come to America and look at the architects of the system of segregation, they were psychologists. Psychology created white supremacy. Not only that, it was the psychologists who justified sterilizing black people because they were inferior. It were the psychologists who justified preventing black people from getting married because we were believed to be inferior. So how can you go to the same people who were responsible for creating your trauma and now trust them to deliver you from that trauma? It is an absolute contradiction. Black people are totally justified in not trusting white psychology, but I do think that the Association of Black Psychologists needs to step up and do more to serve the emotional and mental health needs of black people, because we should not have to go to white folk. The Black Psychologist Organization needs to do it, and I do think that they're moving in that direction now.
Oh man, amazing information, and like I said, thanks again. Before we get up out of here, make sure you can tell everybody where you're going to be this Saturday.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Umar Johnson will be back in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the first time since 2014. It's been almost 4 years. Come on out. Doors open up at 11. The lecture will be from 1 until 4. The book signing will be from 4 until 6 p.m. It's going to be powerful. We have opening acts. We have poets. We have comedians. We have musicians. It's going to be powerful. Children are free, 17 and under. Elders are free, 65 and older. Everyone in between, $20 online, $30 at the door. But I don't think we're going to get to $30 because I really think it's going to sell out before Saturday. So please go online, princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com or drumarjohnson.com to get your ticket. And if you have trouble finding the link, you can text my personal cell and I will send you the link to purchase your ticket. And my personal cell number is 215-989-9858. Again, 215-989-9858, South Florida. Can't wait to see you on Saturday.
Alright, thanks again, Dr. Umar, man. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, anytime you want to, definitely, just reach out to Shardesia and we'll hook this up again because our peoples love it and we love you, my brother. I just want to tell you that myself, continue the great work that you're doing, and we'll definitely link up again. And I just want to make sure that I give you the credit of what you're doing, and we really admire that. Alright?
Thank you, brother, and I'm going to keep you in my prayers, and you keep doing a good job you're doing with the radio show. We need more articulate brothers who are unapologetic, just as yourself, brother, so I commend you. Please keep up the good work.
Appreciate it. All right, that's this week on the Voice 305 radio show with our special guest, Dr. Umar. See you guys each and every Wednesday night from 7:30 to 9:30 here at yopartner.com. Peace out, everybody.